Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Talking Real Estate with Champions Real Estate Team here, Berkshire Hathaway Home Service Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner II, team leader here. Every Wednesday we jump on and give a rundown of what's going on in the real estate market over the last 7 days. So we always like to start off a quick tip. Quick tip talking today is pre-approval versus pre-qualification letter. So basically on a pre-approval letter, the first thing you kind of want to do is ultimately, talk with a couple different lenders potentially, find one that works well for you. And then basically the difference between a pre-approval, pre-qualification. So pre-qualification is basically just kind of sitting down, having a conversation with that lender, saying, hey, here's what my income is, here's what my debts are, credit card, car payments, things like that. And then based off that information that you tell them, they'll say, okay, well, this is what you potentially qualify for a loan as far as what is your purchasing power. And so they may give you a letter and say, okay, hey, here's great, you're qualified for this. But the thing that, and then obviously you go to, with an agent and, you write down a contract, but then you submit all of your documents, to that lender. Well, there may be some hiccups in those documents that may, unqualify you, or you may be perfectly fine. So then you go and look at what the difference is with the pre-approval letter. So being pre-approved means you are actually approved, not just qualified. Pre-approved basically means that you've essentially met with that lender. You've given them all your, maybe tax returns, your 1099s, your W-2s, and then you've shown them your bank statements, your savings, your investment accounts, or, that full cavity search basically as far as from a financial background of it. And they look at it and go, okay, they verify what you essentially have told them over the phone, which on a pre-qualification, they don't necessarily verify. They're just going off of what you say. So I think some things that people may think, well, oh, I made $100,000 last year. Oh, well, that's great. Boom, 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 boom. Well, maybe you're a commissioned income and you only showed, you had write-offs and only showed that you made $50,000. Well, the bank can only look at that $50,000 that you actually netted from that income. So they can't use that whole 100,000. They can only use the 50. So even though, yes, you may have had $100,000 on your 1099, but what you showed Uncle Sam on your tax returns is 50. So that's where some of those hiccups can come into play. So it's best, my advice is get with a lender that's really going to do a pre-approval letter. And that's why getting with, one of us here at Champions Real Estate Team to get a game plan for you and then say, hey, yes, go talk with the lender. And then maybe, looking at a house, when should we start looking at houses? Well, let's get the pieces of the puzzle put together before we get to that point, and so one of those, like I said, is getting with the lender, getting approved, getting a game plan, going through spring training, and then we're ready for the regular season. Okay, so once you're in the regular season, you know what your purchasing power is. You got the pre-approval letter. Sometimes lenders can what they call underwrite you, do the underwriting for the buyer or the purchaser first, and then literally all they need is a property. They get an appraisal, they can underwrite that, and you're good to go. So especially when you're in a multiple offer situation, those are things that we look at from a seller's perspective is how far along in the process is that buyer with the lender and how much information have they given to that lender, and things like that to know exactly what their purchasing power is. So we don't want to take the home off the market from a seller's perspective if we maybe have a buyer that maybe has all their stuff together. So that's the one thing difference between pre-approval, pre-qualification. Make sure you get that pre-approval, get the documents. Yes, it may be tedious and annoying that the lender's hey, I need this document, I need this document. Well, that's what they're doing is that's all stuff that the underwriter is going to ask for throughout the process, and basically it makes less speed bumps along the way. And so, like I said, when we sit down with our clients and go over, kind of a buying, the coaching session of what do you need to know, those are some things you just simply need to know. Sit down with us, go over all that. We can put you in contact with lenders that we work with here at Champions Real Estate Team that we know do a good job, take care of the clients, get them where they need to go. So that's the difference between pre-approval, pre-qualification. So it is a very important thing. I think the general public, you don't know what you don't know, and that's perfectly fine. That's what you hire us here for, Champions Real Estate Team, to represent you and to get you the best service possible, to make sure everything goes as smooth as possible, in that transaction. Yes, there's going to be some road bumps and things like that, but our job here is to prepare you for what's potentially to come. And that way it's not a shock and you're like, oh my goodness, where are we at in the process? So anyways, that's kind of the rundown for our quick tip today. So let's jump into, excuse me here, what's going on in the real estate market over the last 7 days. So obviously last 7 days we had the 4th of July holiday. So hope everyone had a great time with family, friends, and all that good stuff. So typically that weekend, a little bit slower, as far as activity goes, but we still had 310 new contracts written. I think the last week was like 445, 450. So yes, it's down a little bit, but there's still the serious buyers out there when things pop up. 641 new listings came live last week. So essentially one of those was ours that we had over in Oak Hills. So that basically went under contract in the first day. So the houses that are priced right and in good condition, and that's something that we were going to go on the market, just speaking of, timelines and stuff, we were going to go on the market the week before, and I walked into the house, my cleaners were there, and it was one of those that like, hey, now's not the time. Let's don't get this listed this week. Let's get it, polished up and get, I had my cleaners in there for 2.5 days. Shanna at another one bites does cleaning service. She does a great job getting our house, and that basically set our house apart, from the other ones, making sure that that house is ready to go, for those buyers as they come to, because you don't want to just throw it on the market and then you're trying to clean the house, or you're trying to change carpets, or you're trying to do the landscaping and stuff like that. Because then when the buyers walk through, those are all things they look like they need to do. And if you're doing that along the way, that can hurt you as far as how are you going to maximize your equity in that house and get, from a selling perspective, net the highest sale on that house. So those are some things that when you look at making sure you take that time, if it takes an extra week, then do the due diligence and make sure you have that thing. And then that's, like I said, working with us here, Champions Real Estate Team, being upfront and honest with your sellers. Hey, I don't think we're ready to go on the market this week. Okay, great. Let's push it back. And so that's the thing is some agents was, well, I just want to get on the market and things like that. But no, we can lie to you or we can level with you on what's going to happen and just our experience, throughout the process and what it's going to take to net you that most amount. So anyways, we had 495 happy new homeowners over the holiday weekend. So they had celebrated with fireworks and all that good stuff. So awesome for them. But yeah, so that's kind of on that side of it. Let me jump into the 30,000 foot view. So this is always a good matter of perspective of what's going on in the marketplace. So we're just over 3,700 homes on the market, 2205 for Douglas Sarpy County. So existing homes is at 1285, new construction 920. Months of inventory we ticked up a little bit, up to 3.9 is what I'm seeing here in the month of July. So that's kind of about a neutral market. On our listing that we just had that went under contract, we had multiple offers on it, but we're not getting 5, 10, 15 offers on houses that much anymore, unless it's, crazy good, crazy price, good price, and things like that. But we're seeing maybe 1 or 2, offers out there. So pricing that house is very important, especially when we have a 3.9 month supply of inventory. So what that means is we're just outside of what they deem a seller's market into more of that neutral, healthy market, which is, I think, is where we might be in seller market in certain price points or certain neighborhoods, and as a buyer, and even as a seller. That's why, we want to make sure exactly where you're at, where you're buying a house or where you're selling it and what market are you in. And the listing I just had in Oak Hills, that average market time was almost 20 some days, 30 some days. So some of those houses have been sitting there for a while. And so that was more on the neutral market side, not so much into a buyer's market, but it wasn't a crazy seller's market. So we had to make sure that house was ready when it went on the market. So like I said, we delay a little bit. You call an audible, and see what you need to do. So average sold price at 374 or 354. Sorry about that. Up about 2%, from last year. So which is a normal, appreciation level that we see typically. Obviously things go up, things go down. Don't have a crystal ball on that appreciation side of it. So, but yeah, still good, strong, healthy market out there. All that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, if you're happy. And then as far as lending side goes, mortgage rates I just saw, I'm kind of right about 6.5. 6.5 to 7, depending on credit scores, and all that kind of fun stuff. So, there's kind of a range in there, of what kind of the interest rates are. So, we're sitting steady kind of around that 6.5, roughly, give or take, depending on the day, really what it boils down to. So, but that's kind of, I feel like, the new norm. People always say, what is it? Date the rate, marry the house type of thing. But it's one of those things that, timing, it's basically what is the best time for you to buy that house. It's not, we got to wait for the interest rates to go down, because as that interest rates go down, and you saw our appreciation went up 2.5% from last year, and that's slowly creeping up. And so if you're sitting here waiting for that interest rate to drop, substantially, you might be waiting for a while. And over the last 5 years, we've seen about, I think it was my last market thing that I sent out, I think it was at like 47.8% appreciation, of sales price going up in the last 5 years. So that's potentially 50% increase, that if you've been waiting for 5 years for the rates to change or something like that. So if you have any questions, let us know. We're happy to help you. reach out to us on any kind of the Omaha metro area, even if it's Blair, Fort Calhoun, Plattsmouth, Louisville, Utan, Waterloo, Fremont, all those kind of places. We're happy to help you in any area. Yeah, phone number's down here, 672-7670. And we'll see everybody next week. And